Welcome in. Get comfortable, grab a coffee, or just, settle into your commute. Because today we are embarking on a custom tailored deep dive designed entirely for you.
Absolutely. And usually we take the raw materials of information, right?
Articles, research papers, data sets, your personal notes, and we sift through them to find the absolute most compelling nuggets of insight.
Yeah, we really want to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly, without any of the heavy lifting or information overload that usually comes with it. But today, the source material we are looking at is, frankly, highly unusual.
It really is.
It is not a sprawling historical biography. It's not an investigative journalism piece. It is a single, solitary Wikipedia disambiguation page.
Which is such a brilliant starting point, honestly. I mean, a disambiguation page is usually the place you land when you're kind of lost on the internet.
Right, it's a mistake page.
Yeah, it's the digital equivalent of a crossroads or a signpost that basically says, did you mean this? Or did you mean that?
Most of us just scan it for half a second.
Exactly. You click the link you actually wanted in the first place,
Yeah.
and you move on with your day without giving the page itself a second thought.
But when you stop and actually look at the architecture of one of these pages, you realize it's a complete snapshot of human categorization.
It is.
And the word we are looking at on this specific crossroads is Rollin, spelled Rollin, or sometimes with the apostrophe at the end, Rollin.
Just that one simple slang word.
Just that word. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore how this single, seemingly simple word fractures and ripples across pop culture, across geography, through the history of American industry, and even...
What's the crazy part?
Yeah, even all the way into quantum physics.
It's amazing.
What looks at first glance like a dry, boring list of blue hyperlinks is actually this really fascinating map of human culture and how we architect our information. Okay, let's unpack this.
It really is a map.
Yeah.
And when you look at the geography of this particular map, the vast majority of the real estate on this disambiguation page is dominated by one specific category. Music, exactly. The page is heavily weighted toward the arts, specifically split into two neat little subcategories: albums and songs.
Let's start with the albums, because when you track just the album's name, Rollin, you go on this bizarre chronological journey.
You really do.
We start way back in 1974 with an album by the pop rock band the Bay City Rollers.
Very upbeat.
Very. Then the word goes dormant for a bit before popping back up in 1982, this time as the title of a jazz album by Freddie Hubbard.
What's fascinating here is how a single word transcends completely different, seemingly incompatible musical eras and genres.
Yeah.
But there's a very specific linguistic reason for that.
Yeah.
Think about what happens when you drop the G from the word rolling.
It changes the whole vibe.
It does. It's not just an abbreviation. It is an active branding choice. Dropping that G acts as a universal shorthand for casualness,
Right.
for momentum, and for a slight edge of rebellion. You aren't rolling a boulder up a hill, you know? You're rolling with your friends. You are in motion.
That makes total sense. It's a sonic shortcut to sounding approachable but cool.
Exactly.
And you see that vibe applied to wildly different sounds. You have the upbeat, tartan-wearing pop of the Bay City Rollers in the 70s, and then just 8 years later, that same casual momentum is recontextualized by a legendary jazz trumpeter like Freddie Hubbard.
Right. The emotional frequency the word carries in those two contexts couldn't be more different.
But the linguistic branding works for both.
And it continues to work as the decades go on. It's almost like a linguistic meme that keeps mutating.
It really does, because we fast forward to the year 2010, and we get an album released by the Texas Hippie Coalition.
So now we are in the realm of Southern metal.
Complete genre shift. Then we jump to 2017, and suddenly the word has crossed the Pacific Ocean.
This part is wild.
We have not one, but two different K-pop EPs released in the exact same year with that title, one by the group B1A4 and another by the Brave Girls.
Which goes right back to that idea of a universal shorthand. A Southern metal band in Texas and a highly polished K-pop production team in Seoul are looking for the exact same energy.
Action and grit.
Yes. They both want to convey action, grit, and lack of pretense. So they both grab this exact same modified English word.
I love that. And nestled in among all of these massive global releases, there is this incredible little curiosity.
Oh, the Ava Lee album.
Yes. The page lists an album titled Rollin by an artist named Ava Lee from 2008, but in parentheses, it notes that the album is unreleased.
That detail highlights how comprehensive and democratic this database really is, and how our definition of a record has changed.
Because it never actually came out.
Right. In the past, an unreleased album was just a rumor. It didn't exist as a historical record alongside platinum-selling hits.
It was just lost to time.
Exactly. But here, you have albums that sold millions of copies, sitting right next to an album that technically never saw the light of day in a commercial sense.
Just because it has a digital footprint.
Yes. Because the digital footprint of that unreleased project is out there, it gets its own permanent spot on the list. For you, as the listener, tracking this word through the album section is watching a word belong to everyone and no one simultaneously.
It is the ultimate shared vocabulary. But if you think the album section is wild, wait until we look at the individual songs.
Oh yeah, the songs are a trip.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the song list reveals this incredibly bizarre anomaly in the data. I was looking through the timeline of these song releases, and I had to do a double take when I hit the year 2017. Did you notice this cluster?
I did. If you are looking at this data purely from an analytical standpoint, 2017 is the moment where the graph suddenly spikes completely out of nowhere.
In that one single year, the title Rollin or Rollin was used for entirely separate newly released songs by Calvin Harris, by Little Big Town, by the K-pop group Twice.
And by the Brave Girls.
Right, who, as we mentioned, had both the EP and a title song with the name. Oh, and the B1A4 EP was that same year, too.
It's massive.
5 totally different artists spanning electronic dance music, American country, and 2 different massive K-pop acts, all independently deciding to name a piece of art Rollin at the exact same time.
It really makes you wonder what was in the water in 2017. Like, what was happening in pop culture that made everyone from Calvin Harris to K-pop producers independently say, yes, let's call it Rollin.
Right. Was there a shared feeling of momentum?
Or a collective desire to keep moving forward after a tumultuous few years?
See, I look at that and part of me wonders, is it really a cultural zeitgeist or is it just algorithmic optimization?
That's a great point.
By 2017, streaming was completely dominant. Spotify and Apple Music were the ultimate kingmakers. If you are an artist, you know that short, punchy, action-oriented titles are highly searched and easily categorized by the algorithm.
They game the system.
Exactly. Were these artists tapping into a cultural mood, or were they just utilizing a very catchy, high-traffic keyword?
That is a very fair pushback. When the distribution mechanism changes to a search bar, the naming conventions of the art itself are going to change.
It has to.
It is entirely possible that Rollin just hit the sweet spot of being familiar enough to search, but vague enough to fit a Calvin Harris summer anthem just as easily as a Little Big Town country ballad.
And the page doesn't tell us why it happened.
No, it just impartially reports the data.
And the 2017 cluster is just one piece of the puzzle. When you zoom out and look the entire timeline of songs listed on this page, the genre whiplash is intense.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it.
You've got Randy Newman in 74, which makes sense. It's a very singer-songwriter, storytelling kind of word. Then you have Garth Brooks in 95.
Classic country.
But then you fast forward to the year 2000, and Limp Bizkit completely hijacks the word for the nu metal era. I mean, they defined an entire aggressive, backward cap-wearing generation with that one track.
Oh, absolutely.
And then later we get Big and Rich, Lil Wayne in 2011, Kylie Minogue in 2018, all the way up to the rapper Yeet in 2022.
Hearing those names back to back really underscores how a Wikipedia disambiguation page acts as the ultimate digital equalizer.
Equalizer, yeah.
It is a completely flattened hierarchy. Limp Bizkit's early 2000s aggression, Randy Newman's piano ballads, and highly polished modern K-pop groups are stripped of their genre packaging.
They lose their context.
They are stripped of their marketing budgets and their specific fan bases. They are reduced down to this one shared linguistic denominator, forced to share the exact same digital real estate.
It makes you wonder how a fan of the 2022 Yeet song would feel realizing their track shares its DNA with a 1974 Randy Newman tune.
Probably pretty confused.
Probably. But Rollin isn't just a metaphor for momentum in music. We have to look at the other uses section of the page.
This is where it gets grounded.
Because for a guy named Rollin White in the 1920s, this word was quite literally about putting America on wheels.
That transition from the conceptual to the physical is a sharp turn. We go from the ethereal nature of pop music to the grounded reality of dirt, roads, and metal.
For starters, the page lists a literal place on the map called Rollin. It's Rollin Township, located in the state of Michigan in the United States. just an actual municipality sitting out there in the Midwest.
It's just a town.
And right beneath that entry, the page lists Rollin Motors.
Rollin Motors is a perfect example of how deep these historical roots go.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the page tells us that Rollin Motors was a 1920s American car brand founded by Rollin White.
Okay.
And to understand the weight of that, we have to look at the link the page provides to the White Motor Company. The White family was instrumental in early American manufacturing.
They made a bit of everything.
They did. They started making sewing machines, then bicycles, and eventually they were pioneers in steam-powered automobiles.
Which were massive, heavy, complicated machines.
Exactly. But in the early 1920s, the landscape of America was changing.
The Roaring 20s.
The Roaring 20s were happening, the middle class was expanding, and there was a demand for smaller, more affordable, gas-powered passenger cars. So Rollin White struck out and founded Rollin Motors to meet that specific need. So suddenly, this word that we associate with turn-of-the-century nu metal or modern K-pop is inextricably linked to a pivotal moment in the birth of the American automotive industry.
Wow.
It represents the shift from heavy, steam-powered industrial machinery to accessible consumer-level freedom.
It's the evolution of a word. It moves from the early 20th century physical industry building literal cars from steel and glass to the lightweight, invisible digital entertainment of the 21st century.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of the digital realm, there is another amazing oddity tucked into this section. Rollin is also the title of a 1995 video game for MS-DOS created by a company called Ticksoft.
That lead from 1920s automotive steel to 1995 computer code is fascinating.
It really is. By the mid-90s, MS-DOS was the dominant operating system for personal computers, and the market was absolutely flooded with these small, independent puzzle and arcade games.
The shareware era.
Yes, the shareware era. Ticksoft was one of those developers, and they created a game where, quite literally, the entire premise was about a ball rolling around solving puzzles.
So simple.
So nestled right there next to the massive legacy of a 1920s car company and a Michigan township is a piece of mid-90s shareware.
It is a profound reminder of the varying scales of human legacy. You have a township that people have called home for generations.
Right.
You have an automotive brand that helped define American mobility. And you have a piece of code written by a few developers in 1995 to entertain people on early home computers.
It all counts as history.
It all counts. And to round it all out, the page simply notes that Rollin is used as a given name. Rollin, just as a name someone writes on a birth certificate. They all exist under this one umbrella.
It is wild to see them stacked on top of each other. But I have to say, my absolute favorite part of this entire source document is the very end.
The See Also section.
The See Also section. This is the safety net where Wikipedia catches related terms that don't quite fit the exact spelling or capitalization, but are close enough that a confused user might be looking for them.
The See Also section is where the algorithm's logic often produces the most jarring juxtapositions.
Because right there, underneath the K-pop and the country music, underneath the Michigan Township and the MS-DOS video game, we find an entry for the Rollin Film.
And this is not a movie.
It is not an indie documentary. The text explicitly tells us that the Rollin Film is a film of liquid helium.
A film of liquid helium.
Yeah.
We have officially left the realm of human culture, art, and industry, and we have entered the realm of quantum physics and the properties of chemical elements.
So what does this all mean?
It's a huge leap.
How do we even process a leap like that? I mean, what actually is a Rollin Film?
This raises an important question about how we fundamentally organize human knowledge, but first we have to unpack the science here because it is mind-bending.
Please do.
The Rollin in Rollin Film refers to a British physicist named Bernard Rollin. Back in the late 1930s at Oxford University, he was studying the properties of liquid helium at temperatures incredibly close to absolute zero.
So as cold as the universe can possibly get.
Precisely. And at those extreme temperatures, liquid helium undergoes a phase change and becomes something called a superfluid.
A superfluid.
Specifically known as helium-2. What Bernard Rollin discovered, and what is now named after him, is that this superfluid has absolutely zero viscosity.
Wait, zero viscosity?
It has zero internal friction.
What does that actually look like in practice?
Imagine pouring water into a glass. The water sits there at the bottom of the glass because of gravity and surface tension.
Sure.
But if you poured superfluid liquid helium into that same glass, because it has zero friction, its own kinetic energy allows it to defy our normal expectations of gravity.
Defy gravity.
It will literally start climbing up the inside walls of the glass in a microscopic layer, which is the Rollin film, and it will creep over the rim and spill down the outside until the glass is completely empty.
That is genuinely incredible. It just crawls out of its own container.
It seeks the lowest possible gravitational point, and without friction to stop it, walls and containers mean nothing.
Wow.
It is a visible manifestation of quantum mechanics happening right in front of your eyes. Bernard Rollin documented this phenomenon, and so this bizarre anti-gravity creep of liquid helium bears his name forever.
And now, that groundbreaking quantum physics discovery shares a digital waiting room with an Old Wayne mixtape track and a K-pop EP.
Which goes back to the absurdity and the beauty of how we organize information today. Historically, knowledge was siloed.
Very separated.
If you wanted to learn about the superfluidity of liquid helium, you went to the physics section of the university library. If you wanted to learn about Rollin White and the 1920s motor industry, you went to the history or commerce section. And if you wanted to find the new Limp Bizkit album, you went to a record store. The physical world kept these concepts completely separated by walls and city blocks.
But in the digital space, those walls are gone.
Completely gone. The digital architecture of a disambiguation page removes all context except for the alphabetical characters themselves. It relies purely on the string of letters, R-O-L-L-I-N.
It's so literal.
There is a comedy to it, certainly, that a highly specific, complex physics phenomenon is just a few pixels away from a 1995 computer game from Ticksoft.
Yeah.
But it shows the incredible breadth of human endeavor. We make pop songs to capture a cultural mood. We build cars to move our families. We code games for entertainment. We map towns to build communities. And we study the behavior of subatomic fluids to understand the universe.
And sometimes, by pure linguistic coincidence, we give them all the exact same name.
Exactly.
It is like looking at a cross-section of the entire human brain on one single web page. You are scrolling through our need to be entertained, our need to build, and our need to understand the fundamental laws of nature.
It's all there.
And that brings us to the end of our journey through this singular, strange document. We've gone from the pop rock sounds of 1974 and the linguistic branding of dropping a G to the automotive assembly lines of the 1920s.
We really covered some ground.
We've debated the simultaneous pop culture explosion of 2017, explored the coding of early MS-DOS gaming, and finally stared at the frictionless reality of liquid helium crawling up the side of a glass.
It is a remarkable distance to travel on a page that is fewer than 500 words long.
And for you, listening right now, this is the true joy of deep diving into raw, unfiltered information. You never really know what adjacent realities you're going to stumble into when you start pulling on a thread.
That's the best part.
A simple search for a song you heard on the radio can accidentally teach you about a forgotten era of American car manufacturing, or introduce you to a physicist from the 1930s who watched liquids defy gravity.
The world is infinitely interconnected, even if the connections start out as mere accidents of language.
So, we want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over today as you go about the rest of your week. Think about your own first name. Or think about a seemingly common slang word that you use every single day with your friends.
Just a normal word.
If you were to take that word and search it in a massive, comprehensive database like Wikipedia, what completely unrelated scientific phenomenon, what forgotten piece of 1990s software, or what distant, quiet town in the Midwest might you find sharing your exact same linguistic footprint?
It is out there right now.
Sitting on a server waiting for you to find it. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the unexpected connections hidden right in plain sight. Keep diving deep, stay curious, and we will catch you next time.